This is Susan Bassey with a quick First Amendment memo to Mr. Ward Penfold. I want to show you what it looks like when the auditors on YouTube collide with mainstream media and the other auditors that I know. This evening on the nightly news, it was reported that a police officer had been fired based on his involvement in the shooting death of a Mr. Ward, a 51-year-old who was stopped by police and died shortly thereafter. I realized that the sheriff's YouTube channel had this graphic, and they were clearly trying to communicate with the YouTube audience to explain away police misconduct. This graphic reminded me of a video game I had played as a child. It also reminded me of Fortnite, a video game I know many kids are going to be playing during their high school and college breaks this winter.
I'm a slightly healthier cop this season round. The last cop he was a bit weak. They sent a stronger one this time.
Did you stop at Der Burger and get some of the meaty
yeah, dude, I got some gains. I got some gains.
Out here.
Straight gains.
Vic, listen, I have a proposition for you.
A little bit here.
All right.
I
can offer you some
That's a nice
shotgun
car.
shells, but in return, you can't kill me.
Ooh.
I'm the police. I have more shotgun shells than I need to kill all of you twice over. So that's a no.
But do
it's
you
it's
have
a no
rockets?
from me, dog.
It's a no from me, dog.
And whether I'm listening to social media or mainstream media, I'm listening to what everybody is saying and how the culture is changing because of what the auditors are doing on YouTube. And for their work, they've been called sovereign citizens and disgruntled, and I know how that feels in particular. This is Joe Macaluso. He was the former court public information officer when I started asking about private judging. And this is the text message he sent to a reporter friend of mine who was trying to cover one of my family law cases. Now that text message is actually defamation per se. Not just defamation, but defamation for the perceived damage that would be caused by a public information officer calling me a sovereign citizen. And while I know the auditors have been called sovereign citizens, disgruntled, and worse, I realized it was also an indication that I was going to experience retaliation. Retaliation for making a simple records request. I've also been called crazy by the Santa Clara County prosecutor, Admir Allen, a prosecutor who is prosecuting an attorney for a felony crime. And yet I'm the crazy one. And I've heard the auditors called crazy by the police as well, which means you all must be crazy enough to be doing your job correctly.
Show me your hands! Show me your hands now! Show me your hands! Sheriff 148, he stopped. I did attempt to pit. Turned into a ram. I didn't make contact, and now he's still westbound.
He stopped you, attempted to pit, and turned into a ram.
Show me your fucking hands! Show me your hands! Turn off the fucking car! Don't move!
And as I watched this body cam video, I realized how far we had come. Just a few years ago, police officers weren't wearing body cams, and now we can see these incidences where somebody is killed by the police. We can also see how the press releases from the sheriff's department and the public information officers come out in a manner that we may disagree with when we can actually see what's going on.
So just to real quick, if a person steps off the bus on accident, let's say,
Which happens, and sometimes they turn in here on accident just because they're lost on the highway.
right?
So.
But the First Amendment auditors do far more for us than body cams will ever do. They bring us transparency in the everyday places where our families go and our children go. And hopefully the education will happen more quickly because the police officers know we're watching.
Keep your hands up! One.
Let me get up there to him.
Wait.
Let me get up there to him. Don't put your hands down. Don't do it.
Don't do it!
There's movement in the back. Don't move. Don't do it.
It is transparency plus accountability that will make a difference. We all can understand how a police officer must feel when they walk into a situation like this, not knowing if they will be killed or have a weapon pulled on them. In this case, this 51-year-old man had just had his car stolen and been pistol whipped. He was a victim, and he was clearly suffering, as one can only imagine what he must have endured. When he got back in his car and was probably not in a right state of mind, he may not have even noticed the police officers were following him. His adrenaline was rushing, and so was the police officers. But no human being deserves to die by first being carjacked and pistol whipped, and then pulled from their vehicle by a police officer and having their heads smashed repeatedly into the side of the car, which is exactly what happened to this young 51-year-old man.
My son is dead, man. My son is dead. He need to go to prison. He don't need to be laying no mental hospital. He need to go to prison, man. Come on.
Keep your hand out where you can see it. Oh.
Stop moving your hands! Let me see if I can get it. Okay. Sheriff on 482, just deployed twice.
And accountability is the important next step. This police officer should not simply be fired so he can turn up in another law enforcement agency. He needs to be prosecuted. What he did in that moment was simply wrong. He was angry he had been bitten. His adrenaline was going, but nothing justified bashing that man's head against the side of the car the way that he did over a traffic stop.
We're fighting him, trying to get him out of the car.
Yeah, but my son is dead, man. My son is dead. He need to go to prison. He don't need to be laying no mental hospital. He need to go to prison, man. Come on, sir. He want to play crazy. He wasn't crazy when he murdered my son, man. He wasn't. And you want to play crazy, man? He ain't crazy. He ain't crazy, man.
So you see, Mr. Penfold, not all First Amendment auditors are crazy, disgruntled, or sovereign citizens. And typically they all come together to hold public officials accountable and provide greater transparency. And fortunately, I happen to know one dynamite mom who's an auditor up in Sonoma, and if she can take on judges, police officers are going to be no problem.